The air felt heavy that evening, thick with the scent of jasmine and the distant hum of celebration. I stood in my small apartment, staring at the check I'd written just days ago, $10,000. Every cent I'd saved over years of late nights at the diner, serving coffee to truckers and dreamers. My fingers trembled as I traced the numbers, each digit a reminder of the sacrifice I'd made for my brother, Ethan. He was getting engaged, and I wanted his night to be perfect. I wanted him to feel loved, to know I'd always have his back, just like I had since we were kids. But now, as I stood there, the phone call from earlier replayed in my mind like a cruel loop. "Clara, you're not invited," Ethan had said, his voice cold, unfamiliar. "It's better this way. You wouldn't fit in." I sank onto the couch, the check slipping from my hand to the floor. My chest tightened, a dull ache spreading like wildfire. Fit in. I'd paid for the whole damn party, every glass of champagne, every string of fairy lights, every note of the live band he'd insisted on. I'd poured my heart into making his engagement to Lila, his high school sweetheart, a night to remember. And now, I was the outcast, the sister he didn't want there. Growing up, Ethan and I were inseparable. Our parents died when I was 12 and he was 8, leaving us to bounce between foster homes. I'd held his hand through every move, every new school, every tearful night when he missed mom's lullabies. I worked odd jobs as a teenager to buy him sneakers, to make sure he had something to smile about. He was my family, my purpose. Even now, at 35, I saw that scared little boy in his eyes sometimes, and I'd do anything to protect him. But this felt like a knife in my back. I picked up the phone, my thumb hovering over his name. Maybe he'd change his mind. Maybe this was a misunderstanding. I dialed, my heart pounding, but it went straight to voicemail. "Ethan, it's me," I said, my voice cracking. I don't understand. I paid for everything. Why don't you want me there?" I hung up, the silence deafening. The next morning, I drove to the venue, a charming vineyard an hour outside the city. The owner, Mrs. Delaney, greeted me with a warm smile. "Clara, the place looks magical," she said, gesturing to the rows of tables draped in white linen, the floral arches I'd helped design. "You've outdone yourself." I forced a smile, my stomach churning. "Thanks, Mrs. Delaney. Is Ethan here?" Her face fell, and she hesitated. "He was earlier, with Lila. They were finalizing the guest list." She paused, her eyes softening with pity. "Clara, I overheard them talking. I didn't mean to, but your name wasn't on it." The world tilted. I gripped the edge of a table, my knuckles white. "Not on it," I repeated, barely a whisper. Mrs. Delaney reached for my arm, but I pulled away, mumbling an excuse about needing air. Outside, I leaned against my car, the autumn breeze cold against my face. Everyone would see Lila's family, Ethan's friends, our old neighbors. They'd all know I'd been banned, that my own brother didn't want me there. The humiliation burned, but worse was the betrayal, sharp and unrelenting. I thought back to the day I'd offered to pay. Ethan had been stressed, his job as a graphic designer barely covering his rent. Lila wanted a grand celebration, something Instagram-worthy, and he'd looked so defeated. "I'll take care of it," I'd said, my voice steady despite the fear of draining my savings. His eyes had lit up, and he'd hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "You're the best, Clara," he'd whispered. Now, those words felt like a lie. I drove home, my mind racing. Why would he do this? Was it Lila? She'd always been polite but distant, her smiles never quite reaching her eyes. Or was it Ethan? Ashamed of me, the sister who still wore thrift store dresses and worked double shifts. I'd never been glamorous, never had the polish of Lila's world. But I thought Ethan saw past that. I thought he saw me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining the party laughter, clinking glasses, Ethan and Lila dancing under the stars. And me, alone, erased from his life. I opened my laptop, scrolling through old photos, Ethan and me at the county fair, him grinning with cotton candy stuck to his chin, us building a snowman, my gloves too big on his tiny hands. Tears blurred the screen. How had we gotten here? The next day, I called Sarah, my best friend since high school. She listened as I poured out the story, her silence heavy with shock. Clara, that's awful, she said finally. You need to confront him. You deserve answers. I don't know if I can, I admitted, my voice small. What if he doesn't care? He's your brother, Sarah said firmly. He owes you an explanation. And if he won't give it, I'll crash that party with you. I laughed despite myself. The sound fragile but real. Sarah's loyalty was a lifeline, pulling me back from the edge. I'll think about it, I said. As the engagement party drew closer, the weight of Ethan's decision pressed harder. I kept busy at the diner, smiling for customers, but my mind was elsewhere. I overheard a co-worker mention she'd been invited apparently. Ethan had spread the word far and wide. Everyone but me. The shame twisted deeper, but so did a spark of defiance. I'd paid for this night. I'd poured my love into it. I wasn't invisible. 3 days before the party, I made a decision. I wouldn't let Ethan erase me. I'd go to the vineyard, not to beg or make a scene, but to stand in my truth. I deserved to be seen, even if he refused to look. The morning of the engagement party dawned crisp and golden, the kind of autumn day that made you believe in new beginnings. I stood in front of my mirror, smoothing the navy dress I'd bought secondhand but altered to fit me perfectly. It wasn't flashy, but it felt like armor, a quiet declaration that I belonged. My hands shook as I pinned my hair up, my reflection showing a woman caught between resolve and fear. I wasn't sure what I'd say when I saw Ethan, but I knew I couldn't stay away. Sarah pulled into my driveway at noon, her beat-up sedan rattling but reliable. You sure about this? She asked, her brown eyes scanning me with concern. She'd insisted on driving, on being my backup. Her presence steadied me, like a hand on my shoulder. I'm sure, I said, though my voice wavered. I need to do this. The drive to the vineyard felt endless, the rolling hills blurring past as my thoughts churned. What if Ethan turned me away in front of everyone? What if Lila laughed? Or worse, pitted me? But the image of that check, my savings, my love for Ethan, burned in my mind. I'd given everything for this night. I wouldn't let it be taken from me. We arrived at the vineyard just as the sun began to dip, casting a warm glow over the rows of grapevines. The venue was alive with music and chatter, fairy lights twinkling against the dusk. Guests in elegant dresses and pressed suits milled about, sipping wine and laughing. I spotted familiar faces, our old neighbor Mr. Thompson, Ethan's co-worker Jenny, but I kept my head down, clutching Sarah's arm. You've got this, Sarah whispered, squeezing my hand. We slipped through the crowd, my heart pounding with every step. The main event was in the courtyard, where tables were set with crystal and flowers. At the center, Ethan stood with Lila, both radiant in their coordinated outfits, him in a charcoal suit, her in a flowing ivory dress. They looked like a magazine cover, untouchable and perfect. I froze, my breath catching. Ethan's laugh carried across the courtyard, carefree and bright. He hadn't looked that happy in years. For a moment, I wanted to turn back, to spare myself the pain of his rejection. But Sarah nudged me forward. "Don't let him off the hook," she said. I took a deep breath and stepped into the courtyard. Heads turned, whispers rippling through the crowd. I felt exposed, like a spotlight had pinned me in place. Ethan's eyes met mine, and his smile faltered. Lila's hand tightened on his arm, her lips pressing into a thin line. I kept walking, my chin high, until I was only a few feet away. "Clara," Ethan said, his voice low, almost a warning. "What are you doing here?" The words stung, but I held his gaze. "I paid for this, Ethan. Every cent. I deserve to be here." The crowd quieted, eyes darting between us. Lila stepped forward, her voice sharp. "This is our night. Clara, you're making a scene." "A scene?" I laughed, bitter and raw. "You banned me from a party I funded. You invited everyone else, co-workers, neighbors, strangers, but not your own sister. Why?" Ethan's face flushed, his jaw tight. "It's complicated," he muttered, glancing at Lila. "You wouldn't understand." "Try me," I said, my voice steady now. "Explain why I'm not good enough for your new life." He looked away, his silence louder than any words. Lila spoke instead, her tone icy. "We wanted a certain vibe. You're just not part of it." The words hit like a slap. I felt Sarah tense beside me, ready to jump in, but I raised a hand to stop her. "A vibe," I repeated, my voice trembling with anger. "I gave up everything for this night. My savings, my dreams. Also, you could have your perfect moment. And this is how you thank me." Guests shifted uncomfortably, some looking away, others staring openly. Mr. Thompson stepped closer, his weathered face kind but stern. "Is this true, Ethan?" he asked. "Clara paid for all this." Ethan's eyes darted to the ground, guilt flickering across his face. She offered," he said weakly. "I didn't ask her to." "You didn't say no, either," I shot back. "You hugged me. You called me the best. Was that all a lie?" He opened his mouth, but no words came. Lila tugged at his arm, whispering something I couldn't hear. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a mix of shock and disapproval. I felt a strange relief, like the truth was finally breaking free. Mrs. Delaney appeared, her presence calm but commanding. "Clara, let's talk inside," she said gently, guiding me away. Sarah followed, throwing Ethan a glare that could have burned through steel. In the vineyard's office, I sank into a chair, my hands shaking. Mrs. Delaney handed me a glass of water. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I had no idea it was this bad." "It's not your fault," I said, my voice hoarse. I thought he loved me." Sarah knelt beside me, her hand on my knee. "He's an idiot, Clara. But you're not alone. We all saw what you did for him." I nodded, tears spilling over. The weight of the night pressed down, but there was a flicker of strength, too. I'd faced Ethan, faced the truth. Whatever came next, I wouldn't hide anymore. The vineyard's office was a quiet haven, its walls lined with photos of past weddings and celebrations. The hum of the party outside felt distant, like a world I no longer belonged to. I sipped the water Mrs. Delaney had given me, my hands still trembling from the confrontation. Sarah sat across from me, her eyes fierce with loyalty. You did the right thing, she said. He needed to hear it. Did he? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He didn't even look at me. Sarah. Not really. Mrs. Delaney, who'd been hovering near the door, spoke up. People saw. Clara. They saw you stand up for yourself. That matters. I wanted to believe her, but the ache in my chest told a different story. Ethan's silence. Lila's cold dismissal, it all felt like a rejection, not just of me, but of everything we'd been through together. I thought of our childhood, the nights I'd stayed up helping him with homework, the promises we'd made to always stick together. Where had that Ethan gone? A knock at the door startled me. Mr. Thompson poked his head in, his gray hair catching the light. Mind if I join you? He asked. I nodded, and he settled into a chair, his hands clasped tightly. Clara, I've known you and Ethan since you were kids. What he did tonight, it's not right. I swallowed hard, the weight of his words grounding me. Mr. Thompson had been our neighbor when we were in foster care, the one who'd slip us extra cookies or fix Ethan's bike when it broke. He'd always been kind, but hearing him say this now felt like validation. He's changed, I said softly. Or maybe I never really knew him. Mr. Thompson shook his head. He's still that boy who looked up to you. But sometimes people get lost in what they think they should be. Lila's got her claws in him, and he's trying to be someone he's not. I glanced at Sarah, who nodded in agreement. Lila's always been about appearances, she said. I bet she's the one who pushed him to cut you out. The thought had crossed my mind, but it didn't ease the pain. Ethan had made the choice. He could have fought for me, but he didn't. I set the glass down, my resolve hardening. I need to talk to him again. Alone. Mrs. Delaney frowned. Are you sure? It's still their night. It's my night, too, I said, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. I paid for it. I'm not leaving until I understand why. Sarah grinned. That's my girl. Let's go find him. We stepped back into the courtyard, the party now in full swing. The band played a lively tune, and guests danced under the fairy lights. I scanned the crowd, my heart racing, until I spotted Ethan near the bar, alone for once. Lila was across the courtyard, laughing with her friends. This was my chance. I approached him, my steps steady despite the knot in my stomach. Ethan, I said, loud enough to cut through the music. He turned, his expression a mix of guilt and irritation. Clara, please, he said, glancing around. Not here. Then where? I demanded. You won't answer my calls. You won't explain. Tell me why I'm not good enough. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. It's not about you being good enough. Lila thought it'd be better this way. She said you'd feel out of place, that you'd be uncomfortable. I stared at him, disbelief washing over me. And you agreed. You let her decide I don't belong. It's her night, too, he said, his voice defensive. She wanted it perfect. Perfect, I echoed, the word bitter on my tongue. So you threw me away for her version of perfect. His eyes flickered with something regret. Maybe, but it vanished quickly. You don't get it. Clara. You're always so intense. You make everything about you. The words cut deeper than I expected. Intense. I'd spent my life putting him first, sacrificing my own dreams so he could have his. I gave you everything, I said, my voice breaking. This party, my savings, my love, and you can't even let me share in it. He looked away, his jaw tight. I didn't ask you to do that. But you took it, I said, tears burning my eyes. You took it and then pushed me out. Before he could respond, Lila appeared, her smile tight. Ethan, we need you for the toast. She glanced at me, her eyes cold. Clara, you should go. I held her gaze, refusing to back down. I'm not going anywhere until I get the truth. The tension hung heavy, the music fading into the background. Ethan looked between us, torn, but he didn't speak. Lila tugged at his arm, and he followed her, leaving me standing there, the crowd's eyes on me once again. Sarah was at my side in an instant. You okay? No, I admitted, my voice raw. But I'm not done. As the night wore on, I stayed, watching from the edges. I saw Ethan laugh, saw Lila pose for photos, saw the life they were building without me. But I also saw the glances from guests, the whispers of support. Mr. Thompson brought me a plate of food. Jenny offered a quiet smile. I wasn't invisible. Not entirely. The party pulsed on, a glittering spectacle of joy that felt like a world apart from the storm inside me. I lingered near the edge of the courtyard, the fairy lights casting soft shadows on my face. Sarah had gone to grab us drinks, leaving me alone with my thoughts. The confrontation with Ethan had left me raw, his words echoing in my mind. You're always so intense. Was that how he saw me? A burden, a shadow on his perfect life. I watched him now, standing with Lila as they greeted guests. His smile was wide, but it didn't reach his eyes. I knew that look: guilt, uncertainty, the same expression he'd worn as a kid when he'd broken something and hoped I'd fix it. Part of me wanted to run to him, to shake him until he remembered who we were to each other. But another part, the part that had carried us both for so long, was tired. Tired of giving. Tired of being unseen. Sarah returned, pressing a glass of wine into my hand. You're still here, she said, her tone half teasing, half admiring. That's strength. Clara. Is it? I asked, staring into the wine. Or is it just stubbornness? It's love, she said simply. You love him. Even now. That's why it hurts. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. She was right. Love was why I'd paid for this night. Why I'd come here despite the ban. Why I couldn't walk away. But love wasn't enough if it wasn't returned. A soft tap on my shoulder made me turn. It was Jenny, Ethan's co-worker. Her expression hesitant but kind. Clara, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry about what happened. I didn't know you weren't invited until tonight. It's not right. Her words caught me off guard, a small warmth in the cold ache of the evening. Thanks, Jenny, I said. It means a lot. She glanced toward Ethan, then back at me. He's been different lately. Stressed. Maybe. Lila's got big plans, and he's trying to keep up. But that's no excuse for this. I nodded, the pieces falling into place. Lila's influence. Ethan's need to please her, it didn't justify his choice, but it explained it. He's always wanted to be enough. I said softly. I thought I was helping him get there. You did, Jenny said. This party. It's beautiful because of you. Everyone knows it. Her words sparked something in me, a flicker of pride amidst the pain. I'd poured my heart into this night, and even if Ethan couldn't see it, others did. I straightened, feeling a little stronger. I'm not here to ruin anything, I said. I just want him to see me. Jenny squeezed my arm. He will. Give it time. As she walked away, the band struck up a slow song. and couples moved to the dance floor. I watched Ethan and Lila sway together, her head on his shoulder. They looked like a fairy tale, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Ethan was playing a role, not living it. Sarah nudged me. You want to dance? Show him you're not invisible. I laughed, the sound surprising me. Maybe later, I said. But her suggestion planted a seed. I didn't have to hide in the shadows. I could claim my place here, even if it was just for tonight. As the song ended, Mrs. Delaney approached, her face serious. Clara, I've been thinking. You should say something during the toasts. It's your right. My stomach dropped. A toast. In front of everyone. You paid for this, she said firmly. You're part of it, whether they like it or not. Let them hear your voice. The idea terrified me, but it also felt right. I'd been silenced long enough. Okay, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I'll do it. Mrs. Delaney led me to the small stage where the band was set up. My heart pounded as I took the microphone, the crowd turning to face me. Ethan's eyes widened, and Lila's lips parted in shock. I took a deep breath, my hands trembling but my resolve firm. Hi, everyone, I began, my voice carrying over the murmurs. I'm Clara, Ethan's sister. I helped make tonight possible not just because I paid for it, but because I've always believed in my brother's happiness. The crowd was silent, their attention heavy. Ethan stared at me, his expression unreadable. I pushed on, my voice growing stronger. We've been through a lot together, Ethan and I. Losing our parents, growing up in foster homes. I've spent my life trying to give him the love and support he deserved. This party was part of that. But tonight, I learned I wasn't invited. My own brother didn't want me here. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Lila's face flushed, and Ethan looked down, his shoulders tense. I kept going, tears stinging my eyes. I don't say this to ruin anything. I say it because love isn't just about grand gestures or perfect nights. It's about seeing each other, even when it's hard. I hope Ethan and Lila have a beautiful life together. But I hope, too, that they remember what family means. I stepped off the stage, my legs shaking. The crowd was quiet for a moment. Then applause broke out. Soft at first, then louder. Sarah hugged me tightly, her eyes shining. You were incredible, she whispered. Ethan hadn't moved. He stood frozen, Lila's hand on his arm like an anchor. I didn't know if my words had reached him, but I'd said them. I'd claimed my truth. The applause faded, leaving a hum of whispers in its wake. I stood near the edge of the stage, my heart still racing from the speech. Sarah's arm was around me, her presence a steady anchor in the chaos of emotions. I'd said what I needed to, laid my heart bare for everyone to see. But the weight of Ethan's silence pressed harder than ever. He hadn't moved from his spot, his eyes fixed on the ground, Lila's hand still gripping his arm. I wanted to believe my words had touched him, but the distance between us felt like a chasm. Mrs. Delaney approached, her eyes warm with pride. You were brave up there, Clara. I've never seen anything like it. I managed a small smile, though my chest ached. I don't know if it made a difference. It did, she said firmly. You spoke from the heart. That always matters. Guests began to approach, their faces a mix of sympathy and admiration. Mr. Thompson hugged me, his voice gruff. You're a good sister, Clara. Don't ever forget that. Jenny and a few others offered quiet words of support, their kindness a balm to the raw wound Ethan had left. But it wasn't enough to fill the void. I needed my brother. not just the approval of others. As the party continued, I stayed on the sidelines, watching the celebration unfold. The band played on, couples danced, and the air buzzed with laughter. But I felt like a ghost, present but unseen by the one person who mattered most. Sarah tried to keep my spirits up, cracking jokes and pulling me onto the dance floor for a brief, awkward spin. I laughed, but it was hollow, my eyes always drifting back to Ethan. Finally, as the night began to wind down, I saw him break away from Lila and head toward the vineyard's garden path. Alone, my pulse quickened. This was my chance, maybe my last. I slipped away from Sarah, ignoring her worried glance, and followed him. The garden was quiet, the only sounds the rustle of leaves and the distant music. Ethan stood by a stone bench, his hands in his pockets, staring at the ground. The moonlight caught the lines of his face, making him look older, tired. I approached slowly, my heart in my throat. "Ethan," I said softly. He flinched but didn't turn. "Clara, I don't know what to say." "Then listen," I said, stepping closer. "I need to know why. Why you pushed me away. Why I wasn't enough." He finally looked at me, his eyes glistening. "It wasn't about you not being enough. It was, Lila thought you'd overshadow things. She said you're too intense, too involved. She wanted this night to be about us, not our past." I stared at him, the words sinking in. "Our past. Ethan, that's who we are. It's why I did this for you. Because you're my family." "I know," he said, his voice breaking. "I messed up. Clara. I should have fought for you. But Lila, she's got this vision, this life she wants, and I'm trying to fit into it. I didn't want to disappoint her. And disappointing me was okay." I asked, tears spilling over. "I gave you everything, Ethan. My savings, my trust. And you let her decide I don't belong." He ran a hand through his hair, his face crumpling. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I thought you'd understand. That you'd be okay." "Okay." I laughed, the sound sharp and pained. "You banned me from your life. Ethan, how could I be okay?" He stepped toward me, hesitating. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't realize how much this would hurt you. I was selfish." The apology hung between us, fragile but real. I wanted to hold on to my anger, to protect myself from more pain. But I saw the boy I'd raised in his eyes, the one who'd clung to me when the world felt too big. "I just wanted to be part of your happiness," I said. "That's all I've ever wanted." He nodded, tears falling now. "I know. And I took that for granted. I don't know how to fix this. Clara." I took a shaky breath, wiping my eyes. "Start by seeing me. Not as a problem, not as a shadow, but as your sister." He reached out, and for the first time that night, I felt his warmth as he pulled me into a hug. It wasn't the tight, joyful embrace of our childhood, but it was something to crack in the wall between us. "I'll try," he said. "I promise." We stood there, the garden quiet around us, the weight of years and choices heavy but not unbreakable. I didn't know if we could rebuild what we'd lost, but for the first time, I felt hope. Not the blind hope of the past, but something stronger, rooted in truth. As we walked back to the party, Ethan's hand lingered on my shoulder. A small gesture, but enough for now. The night wasn't over, and neither was our story. The party was winding down as Ethan and I returned from the garden. The music softer now, the crowd thinning. Fairy lights still twinkled, casting a warm glow over the vineyard. But the energy had shifted. Quieter. More reflective. I felt the weight of our conversation settle into my bones, not a resolution. Not yet. But a beginning. Ethan's promise to try. His tearful apology. Lingered like a fragile thread connecting us again. I held on to it. Cautious but hopeful. Sarah spotted us immediately, her eyes widening as she took Ethan's arm around my shoulder. She hurried over, her expression a mix of relief and curiosity. "Everything okay?" she asked, glancing between us. I nodded, managing a small smile. We talked. It's a start. Ethan squeezed my shoulder, his voice low. "I'm going to make this right. Clara. I mean it." I wanted to believe him, but trust was a delicate thing, bruised by his choices. Still, I saw something in his eyes: regret. Yes, but also the flicker of the brother I'd always known. "I hope so," I said softly. Lila approached, her steps hesitant, her usual confidence dimmed. The crowd's earlier whispers, my speech, had clearly rattled her. "Ethan, we need to wrap things up," she said, her eyes flicking to me, guarded but not hostile. "Clara, I didn't mean for this to happen." I studied her, searching for sincerity. Her words felt rehearsed, but there was a crack in her polished facade, a hint of unease. "Then why did it?" I asked, my voice calm but firm. "Why was I cut out?" She glanced at Ethan, then back at me, her lips parting as if searching for the right answer. "I thought it'd be easier," she admitted finally. "You're so tied to Ethan's past. I wanted tonight to be about our future." Her words stung, but they were honest, raw in a way I hadn't expected. "My past is his past," I said. "You can't erase that without erasing him." She nodded, her eyes dropping. "I see that now. I'm sorry, Clara." It wasn't enough. Not yet. But it was something. I didn't know if I could forgive her, or if I even wanted to. But I felt a shift, a small release of the anger I'd been carrying. "Thank you," I said, my voice steady. Ethan looked between us, his expression torn. "I should have stood up for you," he said to me. "I won't make that mistake again." The party ended soon after, guests drifting away, leaving behind empty glasses and scattered petals. Mrs. Delaney found me as I helped stack chairs, her smile warm. "You changed the air tonight, Clara," she said. "You reminded everyone what family means." I blushed, the praise both humbling and heavy. I just wanted to be heard. "You were," she said, "and you'll be remembered." As Sarah and I drove home, the night stretched dark and quiet around us. I leaned my head against the window, exhaustion mingling with a strange peace. I'd faced Ethan, faced Lila, faced a room full of people who'd seen my pain. I'd stood in my truth, and it hadn't broken me. "You're a badass," Sarah said, breaking the silence. "You know that, right?" I laughed, the sound lighter than before. "I don't feel like one, but I feel stronger." "You are," she said. "And Ethan's lucky to have you, even if he's too dumb to see it sometimes." At home, I sat on my couch, the same spot where I'd held that check days ago, when the hurt was fresh and raw. Now, it felt different, not gone, but less consuming. I opened my laptop, pulling up those old photos again. Ethan and me, laughing, fighting, surviving. Those moments were still real, still ours, no matter what had happened tonight. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Can we talk? Just us. Coffee tomorrow." My heart lifted, cautious but warm. I typed back, Yes. 10 a.m. at Rosie's. It was a small step, but it was forward. Over the weeks that followed, Ethan and I began to rebuild. Coffee turned into dinners. Then long talks about the past. About mom and dad. About the years we'd carried each other. Lila was there, too. Quieter now. Learning to make space for me. It wasn't perfect. Trust took time. And scars didn't vanish overnight. But we were trying. And that was enough. I kept working at the diner. Saving again. This time for myself. I enrolled in a night class. Something I'd always wanted to do, but never had the courage for. The future felt possible again. Not just for Ethan, but for me. I'd given so much to him. But I'd learned to give to myself. To see my own worth. To stand tall even when it hurt. The vineyard party faded into memory. A night of pain, but also of triumph. I'd walked into it uninvited. Unwanted. But I'd left with my head high. My voice heard. Everyone had seen not just my hurt, but my strength. My love. My refusal to be erased. And in the end, that was the story that mattered.